Good afternoon, everyone. I hereby call this agenda review of Nacogdoches ISD Board of Trustees to order. Let the record show that all board members are present. Reverend Pitcock had to be departed early. Today, all the items on the agenda, for discussions only. No voting will take place at this meeting. Thank you for joining us today, and I ask this, please turn your cell phone to the silent mode. At this time, we are in a public comment, and we have no request to address the board. However, anyone interested to address the board, the instructions are included in the meeting's notice. We are now in the portion of a budget work and order of business in budget workshop conducted by Ms. Lisa Barbrick, Chief Financial Officer.
Coach Fashi, just before she gets started, just wanted to make sure to share my appreciation to the board. Did a tremendous job in our last workshop to kind of look at at a 30,000-foot view about the budget and all the items that are there, and understanding the significance of what we're going through. I want to thank each one of our members of our cabinet that have been working diligently since last we met to look at those numbers. Also appreciate the conversations they've had, even with our campus level and department leaders throughout the district. So we don't take this lightly as we're diving into the workshop. Again, we won't be adopting it till later, June, but we're working diligently to provide the best budget plan for Nacogdoches ISD. So once again, thank you, board, for the work that you've done thus far, and looking forward to our continued work together as we're refining this. Thank you, Lisa.
Good afternoon, President Nirman, board members, Dr. Trujillo. So today we just have a one-page worksheet, and that you should have that at your chair. So this is just a very general view of the work we've done so far, and trying to figure out how we can get that huge deficit that I brought to you last time down. So I am projecting that we will have $63.8 million in revenue, and so that's what we're trying to get our expenses down to so that we have a balanced budget. And I began with the 23-24 budget, and this is not how I normally do a budget, but until we can get all the numbers solidified, then you drop them all in and you have your true numbers. But for purposes of this, we start with our current budget. So that is that first column, 23-24. And then the next column that comes out as a negative 5.3, that is our adjustments leading up to what the current projected budget is. Down at the bottom, you'll see the detail of what makes up the changes in our budget. So in salaries, you'll see that we are actually adding a little over $1 million, and that's made up of the 2% increase, as well as adding some computer teachers and police officers, and having to move some staff from federal funds to general fund, adding a multimedia content coordinator, and then we have some positions that were formerly funded through ESSER that are now going to be funded through general fund, and that amount you'll see is running at $484,000. Before, it was at well over $2 million when I presented that to you before. So we've done a lot of work. The next column, you'll see our services. I've included a 2% increase, which is less than what I presented before. I presented a 5%, but trying to get our expenses down, I dropped that down to 2%. And then we have our added our technology support. Again, in supplies, 2% for, again, those are for inflation adjustments, as well as other miscellaneous, 2% increase. Prioritizing travel, and then the big one here for function 81, as well as capital outlay such as buses, and that $4 million and the $3 million, those were pulled out of fund balance this last year. And of course, you only pull out of fund balance one time, so once it's gone, it's gone. So we are down to a deficit budget of $1.5 million. And we are continuing to work on this, to get it done. And we're all working hard and meeting, and we're going to begin meeting with some principals and to get it done. Any questions?
I don't have any. Board, do you have any questions?
I wanted to just say thank you so much for what you do. We've always done well in our evaluations of how we spend our money and the way it's all handled, and you do that. And this is another conundrum we're in, and thank you for handling that.
Well, it's a group
that's why
effort.
we really appreciate what you have done and what you are doing. It reflects for our teachers, our students, and all the other people that work for this district. And you're a very important part of getting our jobs done. Thank you for helping us.
Okay. Board, any more questions?
Mr. Montoya, I was expecting a question from you.
Well, I already know.
Do you want to put it out there just so the public knows what you're concerned about?
I think, and I want to thank you guys, because for me, the social workers in our school system are as important as anybody else. They really help our kids, and we're going to get there. And I appreciate the support that you all have done for this, because it's a critical time in our schools for our kids. They're having to adjust to so many different things, and I think social workers really have some great skills to be able to help those kiddos. So thank you so much. I appreciate that. My job is done. I'm leaving now.
Okay, this portion of our meeting will discuss items from the consent agenda. No action will be taken on these items. And again, we go to the board meeting minutes. Board members, do you have any questions? We go back to Ms. Lisa Barbrick, business office report.
Thank you again. So I'd like to begin with our budget amendments, and you can find those on page 18. So our first budget amendment is to the Student Nutrition Fund, pulling funds from fund balance. It's a correction from prior month. It's for electrical work. We put it in function 35, and it should have been in 81, so we're just making that correction there. The second amendment is, again, for student nutrition, pulling funds from fund balance to buy an industrial mixer, for $35,000. The next budget amendment is for general fund, increasing revenue for donated funds, as well as increasing the expense for the same amount. And then the final budget amendment is a budget funds for athletic facility use and associated expenses for $6,724. Any questions on the budget amendments?
Anyone? Okay. Next donation of under $2,500.
We received funds from the Athletic Baseball Booster Club for baseball in the amount of $1,530.
Okay. Next, we go to investment report.
The investment report, again, we're doing well. Last month, we received $208,000 in investment earnings.
And any question on that, board? If not, we move to miscellaneous business office report.
And I'll just take any questions you might have.
Okay, board? We don't have any questions? Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Now we move into learning.com. Presenter, Mr. Michael Martin, Deputy Superintendent.
Thank you, President Nerman, members of the board, Dr. Trujillo. If I may direct your attention to page 56 in your board book, The administration is proposing to purchase Learning.com tech apps for Texas computer software. Learning.com's tech app software for Texas TEKS includes digital curriculum, lessons, and resources specifically designed to align with the Texas Essential Skills and Knowledge. This is a four-year payment or subscription, and it's going to be used for our K through 5 students. It is a program that we already have in front of our students. We're just asking to go ahead and continue for the next 4 years with this curriculum.
Have we had it for 4 years? And now we want another 4 years?
Let me check, see how
Okay.
long we've had
Okay,
it, but
yeah.
I know we've had it in the past. Is Ms. Morrison? Mr. President, if it pleases the board, I'd like to ask Ms. Morris to come up.
We've currently had it for the past 2 years.
2 years, okay.
Just curiosity, if there is adjustment on those TICS items, are they, we have
Yes.
to purchase those, or?
No, it's automatically updated in
Automatically does.
with the program.
Okay, good.
And does this have to do with the new mandate that we have to have computer licensed teachers, and so they're trying to up the whole class itself?
Right, we would use that for that. I mean, we were using it before anyways,
Uh-huh.
but this will also be what's being taught in those computer labs with those teachers.
Okay. And in other words, this is what the state is saying, we want to make sure they're learning, right? So we're kind of fulfilling that obligation?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
This is for all the elementary schools, right? So there's 5 of those, and it's about $60,000, so that's $1,200, and it's for 4 years, so that's about $300 a year per school. So I think that's pretty efficient. So there you go.
There we go with math again. I think I need to check.
But if you had to multiply it yearly, it would be more expensive.
60,000.
Okay, we go to Mobile Communications of America.
Good afternoon.
Murray, Assistant Superintendent.
Good afternoon.
It's 4 years.
We are coming to the board to approve a purchase for bidirectional antennas from Mobile Communications of America Incorporated in the amount of $173,805.70. What this does is allows us to meet the new safety standards when it comes to emergency responder radios. The standard is that every campus emergency responder radio should work throughout. And at McMichael and at Carpenter, we are having some difficulty with that. Okay? This would come out of our Cycle 1 grant that we have, so it would have no indication for the general budget.
I'm sorry.
What's the difference between active equipment and passive equipment?
Those are some very technical questions that I do not have the answer to, but I can get those answers to you.
Just our, excuse me, communication system, if there is an emergency, all the local first responders would respond accordingly? Is that, am I right?
Yes, so if it's EMS, fire department,
Yeah.
our police, county, everybody would be able to have their radios working within that building.
And we have a channel specifically for an ISD, correct?
Yes,
Mr. Montoya, the active-passive environment when you're dealing with telecommunications is sometimes communication is ongoing. For instance, if you're sitting next to an officer, you'll hear their radio go off. That's kind of a passive communication that's not initiated by the person that's wearing it. So that communication is ongoing, and that's some of the things that we struggle with those two campuses. The other is the intentional communication possibly from our officer or anybody picking up a radio and engaging in conversation, making sure that it connects when it's there. So we'll get more details, but that's kind of an understanding that is looking at is you have communication and you have interactions that are ongoing, but also you have some that you have to engage in, and we want to make sure that we're able to engage in both aspects of it when it comes to it. I'm sure any of our folks that are in the audience that live at McMichael and live at Carpenter, and our police chief in the back is very appreciative of making sure that we can get this communication going onward.
Mr. Tarvin, these antenna, what kind of warranty do they have on them? They have like a year, 2 years, 3 years?
36 months.
36?
Yes, sir.
Okay. 3 years. Okay, good deal. Thank you.
Any more question, comments? Okay, next we'll look to it. McGraw-Hill, Texas Science, K through 12. Dr. Hill and Dr. Kimberly Welsh, Assistant Superintendent.
Thank you, President Nuremon, Board of Trustees, and Superintendent Trujillo. I would like to ask Dr. Jolyn Corley, our Executive Director of Curriculum and Instruction, to come up and talk to us about McGraw-Hill.
Thank you, Dr. Hill. Good afternoon, President Nuremon, Board of Trustees, and Dr. Trujillo. Last month, we came before the board and we asked approval for the SBOE approved vendor list. It seems like it was just yesterday. We were here doing that for Proclamation 2024 instructional materials. And today we are seeking approval for purchasing K-12 science from McGraw-Hill, which is part of that Proclamation 2024. The instructional materials are scheduled to be used by teachers and students in next school year, 24-25, along with the new Science TEKS implementation. If approved, the science materials will be purchased at the cost of $726,243.48 from the instructional materials allotment funds. I will point out on the quote that this cost is for an 8-year adoption that includes both digital and print materials for K through 12, including the lab kits, student resources, and teacher editions. And in addition, the quote includes professional development, implementation training, as well as on-site training throughout that 8-year adoption period.
And I'm sure it's including the teacher's edition as well.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Did you have a committee of teachers? I'm sure you did. I'm just curious, back in the olden days, we could, secondary didn't have to use the same company that, the elementary did. I just am really impressed that K through 12 were all happy with one company.
Impressive.
Must have been impressive. That's good.
Yes, ma'am, Mrs. That is correct. We had a science committee, and I would like to thank Ms. Matthews, our district science coordinator, who facilitated that committee. We had educators from across the district that were experts in science, and then we also had bilingual educators, special education teachers, as well as collaboration with our instructional technology department to really research and collaborate and make sure that this was the best resource for our students and teachers.
Oh, well, that's got to help the fact that it's just this one source that we have to go to. Yeah, that's really good.
Ms. Apt, what's exciting is a lot of times, and the teachers can speak to this with much more clarity, but we have so many TEKS that are just launching TEKS, and then we have readiness TEKS, and they, are the kids ready? For instance, just a simple fact of watershed, that specific topic. It may be introduced in the 5th grade, they're testing it there, and then all of a sudden you see a deviation, but then in the 8th grade, they're testing it, but it was actually tested on the instruction of what was delivered in the 6th grade or the 5th grade to the depth of their understanding. So to see the streamline of just one topic like watershed, on how it creates, you can literally have a teacher in a secondary classroom responsible for teaching and revisiting TEKS that were taught to mastery and readiness that was in a previous grade level. And if that teacher didn't teach it to that level, then we're at a catch-22, because that teacher that year is responsible for that year's tech. So it's a wonderful idea to, especially with the sciences, for them to kind of coordinate across the board. You won't find that in many other areas. There's always a little more debate when it comes to the
Yeah.
TEKS. So,
Well, and plus, you were being awfully kind, I think, and although it doesn't sound kind, that you were saying if that teacher didn't teach it to that level, but you talk to these students, things you know that they've had at least 3 previous years taught, and they look at you like a calf at a new gate, like, what? what is that?
Yeah.
So it's good that the teachers know the textbook, and they know how it's been presented, they know the vocabulary. That's really important, of how it was presented, because then it will reinforce it.
And I say it very carefully, because it's not that they're not teaching it, it's, a lot of times we fall into this, if I'm testing it this year, then I'm teaching it to the depth of it being accountable. But our teachers see that if it's streamlined, this will be tested, not this grade level, but to the depth, it will be tested in a couple of grades from there. So it's great to see the alignment and the value that our teachers put and the resources that we can put in front of them, so.
I don't like to call it testing. However, is there any evaluation, periodic evaluation for each grade level?
Yes, sir, like are you speaking to after the adoption?
Yes.
Yes, sir, with our local assessments and with our direction of our science coordinator that's working out on campuses with teacher teams, specifically this current year, like fifth grade cohort teacher teams, because a lot of times on the campuses, it's just a single teacher. And so bringing the teachers together so that they have that collaborative space has been instrumental in evaluating where we're at and where we need to go.
Thank you.
I had a question that might be good for people here. We're investing this money in teacher materials, but it says free materials, $106,667. So that's a lot of free stuff. So that's going to help us when they add that with what we are purchasing, right?
Yes, sir, that takes into account the teacher editions, which normally through any type of textbook adoption, they're fairly expensive because they are so comprehensive, which is what we want for teacher support. So that amount would take into account the teacher editions that are being provided by that publisher.
Wonderful. And then the other thing is, where will these come from, and is an estimate of when they'll be delivered, because we had a talk about this a few years ago about what it costs to move tons of books. So will they be here in time for the teachers to review them and prepare and do everything they need to do?
Yes, sir. We've made certain that our timeline for large purchases such as this, early on in the semester, we made sure that everything was prepared and our decision was made by the committee and supported by campus administrators for this April board meeting, because the platform that we order from, EMAT, is closed during April, but as soon as it opens in May, we are sitting there ready on that to open, and we push it right through.
Excellent.
I just want to make sure we're on the record that the circle of control that we have is being done here by the board by looking at the purchase. But when we talk about receiving, we're at the mercy of the world, and shipping and receiving and getting in, and then that's a domino and training. So I'm very careful to make sure we don't box ourselves in to say that we will absolutely get it here in the hands of the teachers. COVID taught us that. Now, don't count on the receiving. So our goal is to make sure we get it all here, get our people trained, get it distributed. But once again, that's outside of our locus of control. We can spend the money for it, so.
My comment is not related to exactly what presented. It's to Dr. Groman. Nothing is free.
One of the reasons I'm asking about that, because if there needs to be more shipping, if something changes, we need to pay the money to get the books here, if we can. Sometimes, like it's out of our control, but if it costs another $5,000 to get it here timely, we should invest that money so the teachers have time to do their work.
Okay.
So get back to us if you need help. Talk to the president right there.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, next we go to federally funded vendors. Again, Dr. Hill and Dr. Welsh.
President Norman, may I ask Dr. Jolynn Corley to step back up to the podium, please? Thank you.
She knew not to go far.
So this agenda topic, we're seeking board approval for federally funded vendors for instructional materials. And this is really similar to the approval that we've been accustomed to for professional development and consulting. The Teaching and Learning Department, in collaboration with our business department, has reviewed the requests for proposals for instructional materials that helps us be in compliance with federal purchasing. The guidelines require us to, if we go over a certain threshold, then we either have to make sure that a vendor is on a purchasing co-op or that we have a request for a proposal. And this process will cover the remaining school year, and it will extend through September. And we're going to see an overlap when we bring forth in a couple of months the 24-25 RFP for PD and consulting, and the 24-25 RFP for instructional materials.
Thank you, ma'am.
Any questions?
I don't have. Thank you. Now we have one item on the discussion action portion of agenda, which is Mike Moses Gymnasium HVAC. Mr. Michael Martin.
Thank you, President Newman, members of the board, Dr. Trujillo. On January the 10th, 2024, the district accepted bid proposals for the replacement of HVAC system at the Mike Moses Gymnasium. The results of the bids are attached for your reference. This project received 3 bids, with McWilliamson and Son being the low bid, base bidder at $95,193. Our team has reviewed the project with McWilliamson and Son, and the ability for them to do the proposed work with their subcontractors, and we take no exception to their bid proposal. The bid breaks down like this. McWilliamson and Sons bid was $95,193. We budgeted controls and technology in there for $10,000, owner contingency for $10,000, and architect and engineering fees, design fees of $6,700, for a total project cost of $121,893. We'll be happy to answer any questions the board may have.
McMillian and Son, are they, do they have a time that they would complete?
Mr. President, if I may call Mr. LaRue to the podium, please.
When it's coming up, Mr. Montoya, I would hope so, because
Yeah.
these are ESSER funds.
Right.
So I'm very hopeful that Mr. LaRue is going to be aware of that.
Aware of that, very aware of that. As soon as we get a PO, we can get the equipment ordered.
Yes.
That is the fly in the ointment on every project, I believe, these days. They can get it installed very quickly.
Good.
Just a
It's a
curiosity.
standard unit, standard 25-ton unit, no bells or whistles on it, nothing fancy, so it should be pretty quick.
I had something to say. I've been in that gym, and when there's activities going on, that's a small place, and it's pretty packed tightly. And so air quality, air circulation, this is really important for the health of all the people in that building at that time, whether it's parents, teachers, children, other spectators, and those kids, when they're in there on rainy days, they're running, and so that air quality is really important. So we're certainly meeting the needs that we have to protect the health of our children and all the other people that use that building. So this is a good time to get that done.
My question is, beside the student at the Mike Moses, anybody else uses that gym for any other purpose?
Ralph, are you aware?
Yeah, there's some public groups that use it, and of course, the parents, there's functions in there. They have several functions in there.
Okay.
President Fashid, one of the things that Ralph can speak to, the reason this is important is not just for the points that, and you bring up some really good points with it, but it's also as much time as it takes for our guys to get in there to do the things that need to be done, requires them to do a lot more to maintain that system, because it's an older system. Mr. LaRue and myself talked about this. It's kind of, you know, do a skyjack in the inside of it to get the guys inside. We've listened to our HVAC guys, and so, and also Mr. LaRue. So this is something that will help us be a lot more efficient in also our manpower to keep the system up and running. So they've been doing their best with duct tape and baling wire. I appreciate the work that you've done with it.
This system, all the mechanical components will be accessible The current system runs on 5 independent cassettes. They're all on the ceiling, and they require a lift every time we need to try to service it, so this will be a much better unit.
Dr. Trujillo, kudos to your team for always looking for ways to spend these extra funds before they disappear.
You may not know this, I'm just for curiosity's sake for the board, because if they looked at the bid sheets tabulation, they were all over the place.
Yeah.
I mean, there were, one was almost 3 times as high as,
Yep.
so, do you know, it's just, is this the place of business, or why it was all over the place?
We've bid a lot of work over the years, and sometimes all the bids come in pretty tight, which was the case for the training center. The bids came in not much margin between any of them, and it's because we hit the bidders at a good time, and they all were looking for work, so their pencils were sharp, and it was pretty even. In this case, summer's coming, a lot of HVAC work out there. A couple of those companies had plenty of work already, so if they were going to take this job and squeeze it in, they were going to make sure they got compensated for it.
Thank you, Al.
Well, something I just thought about, there was the March Madness over there at that gym, isn't that right?
We had March Madness there last year. This year we had it in the new gym.
Okay.
Just for my own personal knowledge, is that requirement that certain amount of cubic fresh air circulate constantly?
Yeah, all the buildings have to be conditioned if we're going to be occupied. And in addition to that, a certain percentage of outside air must be brought in, which is 25% in that particular facility.
Okay.
Of outside air has to be brought in all the time.
Right. Otherwise, we all asleep.
Get a little groggy. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay. The board now will conduct an executive closed session to discuss items posted on our agenda pursuant to the following provision of Texas Open Meeting Act and allowed by Texas Government Code Sections 551.071, 551.072, 551.074, and 551.129. No voting will take place in the closed meeting. Any action the board wishes to take as the result of discussion in the closed sessions will take place after the board reconvenes into open session. It's now time 12:33, and what time should we be back? We should be back not before 1 p.m. Okay?
You see how this
board reconvening now, and the time is 1:04 actually. And I need to go back, and Mike Moses Gymnasium HVAC, we're all in agreed. Somebody make a motion for it.
Oh, to move it to
Consent agenda.
consent agenda.
Okay.
You just, oh, we just needed to agree to do that. Gotcha, we really can't
Okay.
vote. Okay.
Okay, very good. Okay, is there any questions?
I was just going to ask for,
What is it?
Consent.
Okay. Good. Are there any more requests for future agendas? If not, I seek a motion for adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
I second.
All in favor, indicate by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. We adjourn.
That's totally the mayor.